Welcome to She Who Leads in Love, a podcast for women ready to live freely and do what they love. I'm your host, Ginny. Together, we get to explore what it means to choose your truth over your conditioning, trust the energy of love over fear, and confidently step into the fullest expression of who you really are. It's time for your most extraordinary life experience. Let's create. Hello, welcome back to another episode. I have been home now for almost a week and I've been having so much fun renovating our RV. So Lee and I are getting ready to move into our RV again in a few weeks. And we've been painting cabinets and we're putting wood on the walls and we're redoing the floors and building benches. And because I visited a friend in Colorado who had the most luxurious carpet, we are now feeling inspired to put carpet in our bedroom. And so it's been a lot of fun doing all these things together and feeling very creative. And we are still really balancing out the let's not get overwhelmed with the million things to do. And just the other morning, Lee was like, okay, what about this? What about this? I'm like, can we just do one? We know we know these three major projects that need to be done. Let's do those. And then I'll let you know what I feel and want with the next one. And it's actually been a great experience to have so many moving pieces and moving parts and feel so, I don't want to say calm, because there's still a little bit of energy of like, gotta do, but very, very aware and able to know myself enough to know when I'm ready to move on something, when I'm ready to think about this or research this or decide this part. And so I've been really honoring my own sense of where's the energy flowing and not pushing, forcing, trying to get everything done because I know that's what would satisfy my mind. So that is the current experience we're having, and we are both excited and we're both a little bit nervous. This will be the second time we've kind of ventured into living in our RV, and we were talking about it the other day. There was we had a lot of challenges, and that's which is why we moved out of it last time, and now we're going back into this lifestyle. And we were both talking about how we're in very different places within ourselves. We've matured within our relationship and within our own journeys, and we're approaching it very differently. So time will tell, and we will see. We're both let's just take it one step at a time. And we are aware we know this feels like the next right step. And we're also aware something else might come along in the midst of this. So it feels really good to be both on the same page and so grounded in the openness and the possibilities of what this next right step might lead to or bring for us. So on the last episode, I shared briefly that I had a fun experience story that I was going to share with you. So that's today's episode. So I want to take you back for a second to when I had made the decision to go out to Colorado and spend a few weeks there and do some house sitting and pet sitting. I was using Trusted House Sitters, which has been a really amazing platform if you've never heard of it. And I found this one. It was in a little town that I had really wanted to spend some time in. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. The pictures of the house looked amazing. It was one dog. Everything looked great. I talked to the owner. She's like, yes, that's great. Works out perfect. I'll decide in the next few weeks. And she said, I just want to make sure you're okay with the house rules, and I'll send those to you separately. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, no problem. And then she sent over all of the rules and the instructions and all the little details. And I could tell she had put a lot of time into it. And this was the first time I felt my inner guidance kind of come up. And I had a very anxious response to this, to the details of all of these instructions, and if this happens and then this happens and this is how you turn this knob and make sure, and then if there's a fire and then if there's this, and I felt a sense of overwhelm, and I felt the anxiety come up in me, and I was like, okay, I'm paying attention. And my response to that was to kind of say that it was, let's just listen. And when I was receiving that information, I was kind of having an off day. So I kind of attributed it to that. And I'm sure this is fine. She's just very detailed. Okay. Everything's unfolding lovely. And then she checks in a month before, which I hadn't had anyone do that before. And I felt the same little energy of like, oh, this is just something, my mind was saying, oh, just seems like a lot, but totally fine. Lots of people do this. Just because you're not, like this, Ginny, doesn't mean anything's wrong. So the next check-in was about a week before I was meant to be there. And it was at that time that I learned I was going to be arriving and then they weren't going to be leaving until the next day. And I'm like, ooh, something about that just doesn't feel comfortable in me. And I had that feeling again, and it was just stronger. And I said, oh, okay. This doesn't mean it's a no. There's not an automatic no, I shouldn't do this. There's just a response in me and I want to pay attention to it. What does it mean for me? And I said, okay, well, I just need to stand in my truth and share this doesn't feel right for me. So this is just an opportunity for me to just stand in my truth and share what is comfortable for me and what feels aligned for me. And so I shared, I'm happy to come meet you, and then I'll take off for the evening and I'll come back in the morning before you leave. So you're very comfortable and confident, because I think she had some experiences in the past where maybe the house sitter didn't show up, and that kind of created some stress. So I was really feeling her energy around that, not wanting to make my decisions based in that, but also just very aware of it. And with her response, she agreed, but I could just sense like she's like, I feel really nervous about this still, and this doesn't make sense. And it was just a lot of energy of like, it doesn't feel okay. And I was very aware this isn't aligned. And so I had done what felt like standing in my truth. And here's the thing, it still didn't feel good. And I found myself in this position where it seems like I had values on opposite sides of the decision. Like I wanted to honor what I had said I would do, and yet I can't ignore this other feeling of something is misaligned here, and it was causing a sense of anxiety within me. And so I'm looking at both of these options, and I know I need to say something else, right? And I really wanted to make a choice from my inner place of freedom and peace versus what I think each decision or each pathway would give me. Meaning, I wanted to be in the energy of freedom and peace instead of being in my energy of anxiety and thinking about, okay, if I say yes to this, it means this. And if I say yes to that, it means this. And well, how would it feel if I say yes to this? Or how would it feel if I say no to this? I didn't want my idea of how it would feel to come from the circumstances, if that makes sense. I wanted the inner state, the energy that I was in, to be a sense of freedom and peace, which is always available within me. Sometimes it takes a little more to access, but it's always there. And I wanted to make the decision in that energy, because I know that I'm always creating more of what energy I'm in and where I'm choosing from. And it required me to get still and spend some time with myself and just feel through things until I could reconnect to that place of freedom and peace inside me. And then the more right answer for me, or the more aligned answer for me, because it's never black and white, or not usually black and white, but the energy is generally guiding you in one way. And it was very clearly guiding me to say no to that opportunity and take that path. So that is what I did and shared with her. And so I said, look, this just doesn't feel aligned. And if you could find someone else, that I think that's going to be our best solution here, someone that's more of a fit. And if you can't, I will 100% be there to take care of your little guy, which I was looking forward to. And so I found a way where I could honor almost both of the things I valued, making sure that this dog was taken care of and speaking up that something doesn't feel aligned. And she came back and said she found someone else. No worries. Thanks for letting me know. Da 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 da. And what was surprising for me after this is it actually felt like a really big deal to say no. Like there was like an aftershock of that decision for me on a situation that was actually totally fine. Everybody is taken care of. No, it's really no big deal. But there was something about going back against my word or not doing what I said I would do for someone else. It comes back to this not pleasing other people. Now, I didn't have any judgment on myself for this, but I did experience a emotional reaction to just an emotional intensity that needed to be just felt and be present with and processed. And it was just really interesting to me. And I then felt very appreciative for this situation, the whole thing unfolding, because I knew I was moving through this unconscious layer of my conditioning and really setting myself free in the opportunity to be able to feel that and move on from it, right? There's this old pattern that's still active in me to please, that it's not okay to say no or change my mind or choose me. Like they're all kind of intertwined here. And I know that this was an opportunity to actually release some of that layer that I didn't even realize was operating in me. And I'm sure this is not done, but I do know it was a layer of it. And I felt really confident that I was present with it without the judgment and just let it move through. So the question I also want to come back to, because this is what it brought up for me, is when I think back to that very first time I felt that little anxiety inside me, did I make the wrong choice? Because this is what we ask ourselves, right? Could I have chosen at that point to say, oh, something about this doesn't feel right, so I'm going to say no? And would that have meant I would have avoided this uncomfortable experience? And I mean, we could answer this any way we want. Maybe, yes. Yes, maybe I could have said no right away and say, oh, this doesn't feel right. I know this feeling. I'm just going to trust it and say no, and avoided this experience. That's one pathway. The thing about that is me saying yes to that house sit actually opened up the two other perfect house sits that I did while I was in Colorado that I absolutely loved. And so I am wondering, I'm like, ooh, saying yes to that actually was the next best step and allowed those other two perfectly aligned sits, which allowed me to feel so complete and full in my experience. Right. So it's really hard to say, oh, you could have said no and avoided this uncomfortable situation. And here's the other reason I say that wouldn't have been the next best step, because then I wouldn't have got this opportunity. So when I'm looking at an uncomfortable situation that happened in my life and the story I'm telling about it, when I can see it as an opportunity, it really allows the value to rise and make itself known. But when I'm looking at it and I'm saying that was bad, that I don't want that, we are creating more fear because now we're going to try to avoid things we don't want. And that is operating in resistance. So if ever, I don't know if I'm going to give a clear answer on this, but this is what feels very true, is that we only know where we're being guided in the moment we're in. And you are the only one that has access to the fullest guidance that you're receiving in a moment. And so I imagine myself standing in that moment of feeling that anxiety and knowing, okay, this is something, and it still felt like a yes. Even though it was there, it still felt like a yes. And so I trust that. And I trust all of my yeses, even if they're going to bring me uncomfortable situations. I trust them that that was meant to be for me, meaning I want that. I want to clear anything that's still coming from fear that I don't know is here. And how do I do that without just, I trust the yes, I trust the yes, I trust the yes. And I don't know, maybe in a year from now, I will feel that little twinge of a feeling and I will have more experience. I'm like, okay, hold on. I know what this means. And all of that experience allows me to know myself deeper, to be more sensitive to what I'm being guided to, and more sensitive to, like, when that feeling comes up, I know it's important now. And I'm going to allow myself to go even deeper into what is what's here. What is here for me to sift and sort through? How am I being guided here? And your yeses are going, or your nos, are going to feel, the more and more and more you practice this, are going to feel more and more choiceless. Okay. So this is something I'm really leaning into, is this idea of when I'm saying a yes or making a decision, it's choiceless. I'm not 50-50. I'm way more one side. It's an obvious next step. It's a clear yes. It might not be a yes without resistance, but it's a clear yes for me, or no, whatever it is. Just there's a clear rightness about the decision, and you know that, and you're the only one who actually knows that. And then the more you trust it and practice it, the clearer and louder and easier it gets. So this is a story that I wanted to share with you. And since I made that decision, everything felt very, very right. All the next steps aligned, and seeing people and my travels home. And it feels very right to have been here the extra week instead of actually in Colorado with everything going on with the RV. And so really almost confirmed that, okay, trusting that, yes, even when there might be a little discomfort in processing the emotions of one decision or another, there's something inside of you that is guiding you, and you can trust that inner knowing. Baby steps, one little bit at a time. And before we wrap up, I actually wanted to share something else with you. So I have been podcasting for over 10 years now. I started with Cassie Parks and Manifest It Now way back in, oh my gosh, 2016, I think. No, it was before that, 2014. Oh my gosh. And I really learned almost like one way or one style of podcasting, and that is to pick a topic, release an episode every week, and have that consistency and have that rhythm. What I'm finding now is I feel more inspired to share stories and inspirations and little ahas as they happen and as they come along, and reminders. And I want to share messages from my inner being. And I realized, oh, you can just do that. Because the part of me was thinking, how does that fit into a weekly podcast? Because sometimes a story is 5 minutes. And of course, Source is like, oh, you can do it however you want. And so I'm sharing this with you because The style of the podcast of She Who Leads in Love is likely going to be just transitioning. You might see more smaller episodes popping up. It might just be a message from my inner being. And really, this is just me following the energy and following my inspiration for how I want to share. And some of the most powerful support for me has just been these consistent reminders. And so that is my intention. And I wanted to share that with you. I so appreciate you listening and following along and co-creating with me in this. And I'm so excited for whatever comes next. So I will see you next time, and it might not be a week away.